All right. Four, three, and we're back.
And we're back. Happy holidays, happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year's, or whenever this video gets
That's right.
posted.
All right. Well, we've watched a lot through a bit of the holidays. Some
Mhm.
good stuff to come, but we're going to start with not just our new lighting situation, which
Yeah.
we're working on, but also a couple of episodes of
Secret levels
Secret Levels
and Silo.
and Silo. Secret Levels, we're talking about Concord and Exodus.
Yeah,
And Silo is episode five, I think.
five
Five?
maybe. It's not the most recent one, which we
Right.
haven't watched,
Yeah,
but
but we're gonna watch.
yeah,
Okay, well, I think it's level five. I mean, number episode five.
yeah, episode five, something like that.
All right. Well, let's jump into a
Hmm.
couple of
Secret levels,
secret levels, which of course is the very interesting, uh, on Prime,
mini
look,
series
mini
thing.
mini series, where each episode is a different, based on a different video or inspired by a different video
Yeah.
game.
Hmm.
And definitely we've talked about how some of them feel like they're a series,
Oh yeah.
uh,
Some
uh,
of them could be
pre
okay as they are. Some of them definitely could be the intro, the hook to grab you into a
Yeah,
series.
like what they would have called a pilot,
Right,
like
yeah.
something you did to try and convince somebody to make the whole series.
Hmm.
And some of them are definitely um, s- can't see how there's anywhere to go, and it's just a really interesting
Yeah,
thought. So let's jump right in it. Well, I'd like to definitely talk about Exodus, which
right.
was a real surprise for me as a parent, right? It's basically the story of a sort of quote unquote classical teen, wanting to leave Tatooine or whatever planet that they were born on for the
Hmm.
bigger star system out there,
Right.
or leave the small town for the bright lights of the big city or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And then
The dad goes
the
after her.
the dad, and it's daughter, so maybe there's some sort of like, it's more concerning for a dad kind of thing because the
Hmm.
mom's not around. And then the dad, she sneaks off and the dad goes chasing after her.
Hmm. Yeah.
But this time it's through not just like across the planet or around the world or across the country, it's through space
Right.
and through time.
Right. Yeah. So often when we think of faster than light, we think in the matter of weeks, months, maybe like a year or two at the most,
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you don't think of like, like the time it takes to get from planet A to planet B. To you, and to everyone else, it's, a few weeks and stuff. But it's interesting because in this series, it touches on the idea of sometimes we've seen where like, oh, it takes a century to reach.
Or so people go to,
Yeah.
often they deal with it if they want to deal with the time, space sort of, people go to sleep, right? And
Right,
they
yeah,
wake up when
cryo sleep or something.
they wake up when they get there,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But this idea was really that, his daughter goes off and there's speed of light travel. It's not, I
Hmm.
can't remember if it was faster or slower or
Yeah.
whatever, but it's a speed of light travel approximately. And the idea was he had to go and find her, but when he went to find her, sometimes he was traveling at the speed of light, and so time was sort of stopping. But basically, that all of a sudden, he's 25 years older than her because he's her dad or whatever.
Right.
But as he starts looking for her through the space-time continuum, their ages get out of sync.
Right. Yeah, like it's so interesting. Like a year for him, maybe 7 or 8 for her.
Right.
So like so it's not just him, being in a cryo sleep and waking up a few weeks later and like there's barely any time difference between them. It's decades
Right.
of time,
Right.
her being in like real space, while for him it's only been a year.
Right.
And it's such an interesting concept. You don't think about that much when you think of like
Yeah,
faster
and
than light.
whether the rules of that universe really hold up or
Hmm.
would hold up in other things or whatever.
Right.
I think what was interesting is because it was a short, right? So it wasn't like they were trying to build like 3 hours or three movies worth
Hmm.
of world here. It was just a short story, a story that, maybe it's a classical story or whatever it is. And as a parent, it really grabbed me, as
Hmm.
sometimes kid parent stories do. And I just never, and I was just like, oh my God, that I was just like sad, right? Like,
Yeah,
here's
no.
this thing, this guy chasing after his kid, and I get that. And of course, you're hoping that it'll be a happy ending or whatever. And all of a sudden, there's this space thing and it's time thing, and it's like, oh my God, that's so, and
Yeah, it like from his perspective, he's been after her for like a decade. But to her, it's been like
well, I mean,
50 or more.
they catch up when she's
Hmm.
old,
Yeah, no,
right?
she's
So,
his age when like,
well, but he's aged as well,
oh,
right?
yeah, no, but like she's older than him, it
Right.
looks.
And it looked like it could have in that world, it looked like they lived actually beyond 100,
Right,
right?
yeah,
So, but I mean, so he's chasing through time and space for like 100 Earth years or whatever.
right.
But it's
He's
in some
only
ways,
aged.
but in some, well, no, he's aged that much, right?
Right,
But she's aged more.
right.
And also it could have been much longer, much more than 100 Earth years
Hmm.
because they were traveling at space for so long
Right.
or whatever. And anyways, it was just,
It's such an it's an
it's got
amazing
a
thing, yeah.
sort of a sad ending,
Yeah.
because there's a death as there are to most stories if you read them for long
Hmm.
enough, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
It,
it was,
it was a
it was
bittersweet kind of.
yeah, it was just and it was just a different take on parental love, sort
Yeah.
of, and whatever. I found it short. It was like a little short story, and it was quite
Hmm.
powerful. So I really liked it.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the video game
Yeah, me
and
per
what goes on in the
yeah.
video game, and I think I don't know if you do or not,
No,
but
but it's a very I'm not sure if this would become its own series, but
right,
it's
right,
definitely a great short, you know?
yeah, there wasn't there wasn't enough in it, and that shouldn't be a criticism
Yeah,
because I don't
no.
think it was trying to do more. It
Mm,
just had this really interesting thing that it painted a
yeah.
story. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Very
And
good. Yeah.
some time we'll give 3 stars to that to those folks who made that one.
Yeah.
And then
Uh
the other one
Concord.
is the world
Concord.
famous all-time greatest.
So here's a little bit of backstory to Concord, the game. Concord started production, like making the game, less than like 10 years ago. It took that long to make a game, and then it costed the folks who made the game $400 million. dollars.
Crazy.
The game dropped with barely any fanfare,
Yeah.
was a game that was 10 years too late to an oversaturated market, that was largely free when it came for like a $60 price tag, and was just like a hero shooter game in a whole genre of better hero shooter games. And
At the end, as I understand it, at the end of the genre, sort of, or at the end of the popularity, or just the growth of.
it's oversaturated
Right.
with tons of, other ones that are more popular, more played, worse in quality maybe, but still just
Mhm.
played more.
And so,
So 2 weeks after it got released, it died.
and so it died, meaning they pulled the plug. You
Yeah,
couldn't.
they pulled the plug. You can't play it anymore, basically,
Hmm,
which does suck because these people obviously spend a lot of time and interest in this game. Like there was a lot of stuff that could make this game interesting, but no one played it because there's so many other options.
right. Um,
So it's what makes this episode really funny
right.
because this is an episode for a game that no longer exists.
Right. Um, but is has clearly gone on to being like a not just a meme, but like a legend sort of, and it's in like in
Yeah,
the way in
infamous
the
legend.
infamous,
Yeah,
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 like in the way the worst movie of all time is, or
yeah.
what are the top worst
Right,
movies,
yeah.
or whatever it
So
is.
this, I don't know the lore of Concord. I don't care to go into it because there's nothing there basically. The episode itself is an interesting, also another interesting take on space travel.
Hmm.
It's set in a world where, like, I don't know, like a bank, like the banking clans or like some big powerful clan group owns a star map. And in space travel, it seems, unless you have, you're given like maybe like a one-time use star map or maybe like a pilot, you
Oh,
can't
right.
get from
Get
planet to
through.
planet
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like, well, all the dangers that normally are brushed over, like,
Right.
small rocks penetrating the glass,
Mm.
you not knowing where you're jumping, or like,
Yeah.
you missing the mark, or all sorts of things. And also there's like a big dangerous storm or something in the middle of the galaxy moving around, whatever. And it's an interesting idea. And so it's your average story of, a group of thieves daring the odds, backstabbing and success and who knows what. And it's a good episode. In the end, the
Hmm.
people are able to get this map and then they upload it to the entire galaxy.
Right. They give it away, sort of.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is a cool idea.
Yeah.
It also makes it's kind of funny to me, really funny, because what they basically did was take this, they didn't know what it was, but they knew it was important. They took this, discovered it's a galaxy map, so anyone could have with this the right ways to get from place to place. And then they upload it before they're forced to go into this big storm to the whole galaxy, which is funny because like they uploaded it to the entire galaxy. Like
Right.
somehow the galaxy has like this big like
Google Drive.
Google Drive or like Twitter, basically.
Right.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
it'd be like adding everyone, hey,
Yeah.
star map,
Right.
and like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's one of those things, like the last episode that we were talking about space time travel and stuff like that. Like sometimes you watch something and
mhm.
you try and get in it and try and not like
Think about
pick
the
apart every little bit of the world somebody's spinning up.
right.
But sometimes like the whole plot, like it's like for those people my age, there'd be like, a show like Three's Company, and it was always based on like a misunderstanding. Like somebody overheard something and someone was talking about, putting fudge into a box or something, and all of a sudden somebody's saying, well, they were like, anyways, whatever it
Yeah.
was, it's like some misunderstanding. And sometimes like a show like the episode like this, maybe the whole plot revolves around or resolves on like some sort of thing that you're like, wait a sec, why? Remember in the beginning, why didn't they just like whatever instead of,
Yeah, like
so,
why?
anyways.
Right, yeah. Like oftentimes the story will try to, will weave itself, and most of the time it'll try to keep you ground, like just keep you
Right,
focused and like maybe allow you to like look out at the bigger picture, like, oh, what about this world or that? But sometimes, yeah, like if the story isn't holding you down enough or like does something so grand, like so like thought-provoking that you kind of have to think like, so they just added everyone, said, hey, here's a star map of the galaxy. Like,
right,
how do they do that?
right.
Or
Or,
like,
we've got to get this stick because it's the only thing with the information on it or whatever. And then meanwhile, they're like teleporting stuff or whatever,
yeah,
or whatever it is.
we've got to get this package to here. Boss, there's a pretty good teleporter.
Yeah,
No, we
no,
can't do that.
yeah,
We've
that's
got
right.
to sacrifice ourselves.
That's
We've
right.
got to
Yeah,
needlessly die to get this thing here. Like, why didn't you just like throw it out the like,
yeah, yeah,
out of the give it to everyone and then like it's both, priceless but also now worthless
yeah,
for the bag.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So yeah,
I
the
think,
episode was it was a
yeah,
pretty good, it was an interesting
yeah,
episode. It
yeah.
was
I'm enjoying and look forward to some of the other episodes of
yeah.
Secret Levels. I think it's a really interesting idea to have, multiple. I need to look into it, right? Are there multiple directors? I assume there are
Oh, for
stories and directors and things like that. So no, I think it's great. I think it's
Mhm.
very
Oh
entertaining
yeah, no, I love
and
the series.
a neat way. I'm, definitely interested in how people who are um interested in the games,
View this,
view
yeah. Hmm.
right? Like rather than a couple of seasons of Halo, you might have just had like a Halo
Yeah.
episode, and
Hmm. I wish.
if you loved it, you'd be like, "Oh my God, I wish they'd do more,"
Hmm.
or
Yeah, like I've seen, for example, with the Warhammer 40K episode, um, I saw the people's reactions and they really liked it.
oh, they
Like,
did, eh?
yeah,
Oh, that's
like
good.
it encapsulated a lot of what makes the series. It's often joked in the Warhammer 40K group that there are two kinds of books for 40K. There's big man with big gun shoots bad guy, and the effects of war and evils and the powers of the mind written by Zoran the Child Flayer. Like there's big smashing stuff or like
Super
oh
nerdy stuff, sort of
yeah,
like
yeah.
super like, yeah,
And this was in the big man shoot big gun thing,
right,
and people loved it. It was a
yeah,
really great episode, and I
right,
really liked it.
yeah,
And yeah, so like some of these episodes that, like, again, I can't wait for whichever episode we watch next, and I can't wait for this to get more seasons or some of these shows to get
right.
spin-offs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to
I
see.
just it's just a good.
Well, I think that's a good transition to Halo because it seems that one of the strengths for Halo is that the world actually does not break down the tech, the ideas of the
Yeah.
world and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
Don't break down, kind of. And so yeah, what tell me what you thought about the last episode. What went on? What do you think?
Of
Silo.
Oh, the silo. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I It's interesting. Throughout the silo, I don't think we've had that many fights.
Like big
No, like
fights.
like sometimes the episodes will end with like the people at the mid levels coming down to beat up the people on the lower levels, but it'll cut
Right.
just
Violence
before.
hasn't been a big. I mean, there's been a lot of violence and threats of violence and
Right,
like
yeah, but like it's interesting because I feel like the violence has to be held back because
mm,
if things go
the
too
whole
badly,
right.
it's really
The
easy to
whole
have everything
the
to.
whole society is based on kind of like held back, kind of, right? Like
Every
control,
People are fighting on a tightrope
right.
basically, and like
Well, but not fighting, right? People are
yeah, like.
like everything is being managed so there aren't fights, kind of,
Mhm.
aren't conflicts, kind of.
Yeah, or just enough conflict to wear everyone down, but
Right.
not to cause like truly damaging stuff.
Right.
And so again, the silo once again, except for one of the viewers of the silo who we know that doesn't for some reason like the series. I the episode was really interesting. It talked about how like they're trying to starve those people in the lower levels by um like Bernard says, like, society can only won't last if they don't have like 9 meals
Oh, right.
within like,
Society breaks down after 9 meals. Yeah, that was a good.
9 missed meals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
9 missed meals. That was a very good. I'm curious whether that was said by somebody else in real life
Yeah.
or what. But that,
Mhm.
yeah, was definitely a powerful
Yeah, statement. Yeah,
statement.
like,
Yeah.
and it's true. Like, starving people out will either, like they'll fight back because they need to eat.
Hmm.
And like, so that's what in the episode they were trying to do. They're trying to hold them down to not get out and escape with mates. Um
Keeping you up, eh?
yeah, them trying to like weaken them or like give them incentive to actually like defeat the lower levels and
Right.
not let the lower levels escape or like get food, but
Hmm.
in the end they do.
Hmm.
um and it's also touching on like Bernard's regrets. Like he did not want to kill
Right.
Judge.
He was clearly in love with
Yeah,
her,
yeah, like
right? Like,
he cried like I'm
hmm.
so sorry.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was the only choice I could, only possible outcome I could, see
Hmm.
working.
But it's also interesting that the the husband and wife who are judicial, you know what I mean? I'm
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
blanking on their names, but that like that they're all kind of going through questioning what they do and whether
yeah.
it's good or right or wrong or needs
Hmm.
to be done. Should they question it, right? Like
Right.
the things that they do, like freeing people or letting people pass or helping
Hmm.
people, trying to
They're trying to turn them in. Like
try,
it's all
yeah,
so interesting.
right. And in the end, more and more people are starting to think that they want to see what's outside, right?
Right. And it's also interesting to see how some people are choosing not to choose a side. The one of the sheriffs, like he said like he didn't turn them in and said like, like he called Bernard saying, "Hey, I'm not turning them in until like, this thing happens." And
Right.
then they're like,
He's trying to stick by the book.
right. And then like they say like, "Thank you." And he's like, "Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you guys. I'm doing this like for the righteousness and like for the silo. I'm not doing it for like the lower levels, the upper levels. I'm
Hmm.
only doing this for the betterment of everyone."
Right. Yeah.
And then like the cuts between that and also not as often, but the cuts to Juliet.
Right.
And like at the end of that episode, we were wondering like what's gonna happen to her because she crawled under a bed while injured. And at the when she arrives in this episode, Solo is like, "Oh, don't worry, I patched you up, and now you're gonna help me with the pump."
Right. He's kind of like holding her hostage, right?
Yeah, because like, and I understand sort of like he needs to get that pump working so like he can stop whatever bad thing happens to the silo. But also, it's interesting to see how she's gonna try to balance this and also get back home.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that the tension in that silo is very one-on-one,
Hmm. It's really
right?
Solo.
Yeah, and that it's not like all she wants to do is get back. Like it's not really clear what the heck she's going to do when she gets back, right?
Exactly,
Like
like
to say to people, actually, you guys should listen to this guy and everything. We should go back or
right,
whatever.
like it.
But there's right. There's still it's just interesting that yeah, that tension is very much like two people lost on a mountain try
Mhm.
and cope with the challenges they've got or whatever, and then back to the other one, which is a, a civilization like
Undoing,
yeah,
yeah,
undoing itself, teetering on, people bit by bit questioning the ruler
yeah,
and
and everyone's and like it's interesting because maybe like there's if he told them the people decided the truth of like, okay, you guys don't like me, but actually it is dangerous outside. Here's like
right.
live recording.
Right.
What would
What,
happen? Like
why,
what?
yeah, why it's interesting why why before rebellion wouldn't you tell people the truth, kind of,
Right.
you know?
And it's so interesting to see that like in the show, I don't think I can call anyone strictly an evil person
Right.
because so for so many reasons
Right.
they're doing what they think is right. And a lot of time they don't know everything. So technically they are right.
Right. There's definitely, yeah,
Yeah, they're
it's
definitely
true.
more,
It's not necessarily like clearly
yeah, it's
there's a
not
class system and
mhm,
clearly some people get
better than others.
more than others, but there's not like like Bernard, it's not like he
Bernard's eating
he
like all the good
right. Oh,
food or
and that
something. They're like,
he feels he's got some kind of responsibility for,
right.
for better, for worse,
Yeah.
right?
And
But
like he doesn't like, go around like torturing people just for fun or like,
right
being overtly cruel. He thinks what he's doing is the
is
right thing. And he's only like
right.
he's sacrificing his friends to make sure that the silo survives. He doesn't have the full picture, or maybe he does, but like he's doing everything he can to protect as many people as possible.
Yeah,
And he now
that's
knows what happens if something bad
yeah,
happens.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I think we should wrap this one up. Let's go
Yeah.
watch that other episode, a few more
Yeah.
episodes, and we'll get back.
Yeah, we'll whenever these episodes get posted, and also eventually we'll talk about that recent movie we watched.
Gladiator
Later.
2, not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's say that. Let's say that. All right. All right. Well, we'll see you in the new
Yeah.
year.
Until we see you again.
Until we see you again.